All right, so we're going to start off with our first HTML page today, so that's really exciting. And you will see that HTML coding isn't very hard or anything. It's just simple, structured coding that's easy to understand and design. So we're going to start off with the very basics first. And I have here two files open. This one here is Sublime, and I'm working on PC, just to make sure you guys know. So I don't have any of the text editor for Mac here, but I have two that I've downloaded. One is Sublime, which is the black one here, and one is my Notepad++, which is right here. So what's the difference? Well, first of all, you can code HTML, CSS in any text editor that understands HTML coding. Plain Notepad wouldn't do it. Notepad++ would do it. So you have to know which ones work for you. I have already given a big list of different choices. Atom is one of them. Visual Source Code is another one. There's so many choices. BB Edit is another one. My personal favorite is Sublime, and Sublime has two different options, one for Mac and one for Windows. If you are using Sublime, that's okay. If you're not using Sublime, it's still okay. And that's the reason why I wanted to show you at the very beginning part at least. I'll show you the code on both of these pages, and then I'll move on with the remaining demo on Sublime. Now, I just wanted to mention that in Notepad++ and Sublime, you will see some difference, and you will also see some differences in terms of auto, you know how you do autofill when you type in something and it does autofill for you. You will see some differences in Sublime. Sublime gives you more than Notepad++ in terms of autofill. It saves you time, and so does Atom. Atom actually comes in with a plugin that helps you do the autofill. So it's up to you which one you do. There's nothing wrong with Notepad++ at all. In our labs, we actually have Notepad++. It's a great editor. Like I said, it's the code that matters. As long as the text editor understands the code, we are all good. So again, you have multiple choices. Pick one that works for you and just code as I would code in my Sublime editor. But code in any of the text editor you have that understand HTML, and you're going to be okay. All right, as far as browser goes, you will see me open my files on Chrome a lot because I have that set as a default browser. But if you want to use another browser, Firefox or Internet Explorer, that's okay too. Just be aware every browser has their different ways of displaying fonts and styles. So eventually you'll see slight differences between them. So we'll see that difference. However, again, we are here to learn the coding, and the coding wouldn't really matter between the browsers at this point of workflow. All right, so I'm going to get started with the basic HTML boilerplate. So here I have in Sublime, I typed in the very basics, and I want to walk you through of what this is. The first line is what we call a doc type tag. What this is it says exclamation point doc type HTML. That means that this code will tell the browser that, hey, this is a HTML document. That's what that is. Without that code, it's going to be impossible for the browser to know what it is. I mean, some browsers are very good at understanding what it is, but some may not. If you have an older browser, it may not understand. And you have to see today we are learning HTML5. This doc type code used to look different for older HTML, for older versions of HTML. So if you look at our course module, you'll see I have typed in different variations of doc type codes previously. The old doc type codes wasn't so small and simple. It used to be very, very long. I won't go to it now because we are on HTML5, but it is part of your learning module, so please be sure to check and get familiar with it. Alrighty. Now, after the doc type code, the browser knows that this is a HTML document. Next up is a HTML tag. And you'll see every time I have a tag here, I have a closing tag too. Look at this. This is another HTML tag. But the difference is there is a hash in front of it. And that is the opening up here at line 2. And at line 9, I have the closing HTML tag. Now inside the HTML tag, I have a head code and a body code. It's kind of like people. HTML documents also have a head and a body. What goes inside the head is something called title. Now you notice the head also has a closing tag, body also has a closing tag. And then the title also has a closing tag. Now, how would this work? You will see it very shortly as I start typing in and filling in these spaces. But what we want to know is what happens when you type in something within these tags. I'm going to type in something on title. I wanted to mention that if you are on, you see me here up top. Look how my document is already named index.html. It's because I saved it. But let's talk about that just briefly before we go on. I actually saved my file save. I'm going to save as now because mine's already saved, so I can show you. And you want to go open a folder. In my case, I have a folder called Web Design. This folder has a index.html document, the one that I am working on right now, and I have an images folder next to it. It is very important that you have a structure similar to mine. I don't want to use images just yet, but I want to make sure that you guys have a folder called Web Design, or name it however you like, but it's going to be for this class. And please have your document, the one that we're working on right now, saved directly under Web Design folder, and have an images folder right next to it. Now, that's it for now in terms of our folder structure, and we will be adding more to it later. But in terms of your document, as soon as you open Sublime or Notepad++ or any of your text editor, make sure you go ahead and do file save and save it as index.html. Now, if your save is not showing you multiple document types like this, in my case, I already have it saved at HTML. And I'll show you how I did that real quick. And let me just go back one step. Under Sublime, if you look at the very bottom of Sublime, there's this on the bottom right corner, there is where it says HTML. If you click on that, you'll see multiple options. If you just opened up Sublime and you have not used it before, it'll not be HTML. So you're going to go click on this HTML or whatever it says on yours and make sure you select HTML. That means Sublime will always save this file as HTML because I already have it preset. So you just have to go open the file, save as index.html, all lowercase. And then you save it. Mine's already saved. Now, if you're on Notepad++, and right now I don't actually have it saved, so that's great. So I just literally opened up Notepad++. It comes in as new one. So if I type in, say, anything here, what it's going to do is it's going to think it's just a regular text. So if you look right here on the bottom left, you can see it says normal text file, which is a problem for me because if it's just a normal text file, then basically all we're talking is just typing like, Google Drive or, Google Documents or Word file or any other text editor. So what I needed to do is to first recognize it's HTML. Just like how I did it on on Sublime text, I'm going to do it here too. I'm going to go file save. And please know that because I already have, I'm going to go into my folder here while I'm speaking. Because I already have a index.html file, I can't save it as HTML anymore. So index.html anymore. So I'm going to save it because it's in the same folder. So just be aware, I want to mention specifically this particular file has to be index.html. In my case, I can't right now because I already have index.html sitting on this particular folder. So I want to just call it index1.html. But again, do not put that one in there. You should only have one index.html. I am only doing this to show you how to save it without overriding my previous document that I already have. But note that I have it saved as the index1.html and I am going to save it. Now, if you look at it, I have an index.html file. So now, look at the bottom left corner. It says hypertext markup language. Instead of saying regular text file, it says hypertext markup language, which is HTML. So now, this Notepad++ will understand the language I'm speaking in HTML. So now that we know what language we're speaking, we can go on typing. So I'm actually going to start working on Sublime, and then I'm going to come back and copy paste this in index1.html, and I'll show you how it works on both. You'll virtually see no difference. Alrighty, so we just talked about doctype HTML. So doctype HTML tells the browser that, hey, this is a HTML document. Then we always have to have the the HTML tag, opening and closing tag. There will be a lot of contents inside, but at least we're going to start off of this and we're going to start adding things to it as we go. All right. Then we have the head and the body. Don't forget, each of them comes with a closing tag. And also the head has a title, and that also comes in with a closing and opening tag. So I'm going to do is start off with, first I'm going to start off with my title tag. And I'll go in between the two title tags and I'll type in, also today we're going to actually make our portfolio page. So I'm going to just call it my portfolio page, my portfolio. Maybe, you know what, I'm going to call it Janali portfolio. All right, and I'm going to save it. Now, you will not see me save as like this all the time, file save, file save. I don't do that. And even in Notepad++, same thing. I don't want to do that. I use shortcuts, so Control Save, Control S. Every time you make a change, you want to Control S. Now, the question is, it's time to check our file. How does it look? There's no content in it, except that I put in the title as Janali Portfolio. So let's see how it looks like in the browser. And remember I mentioned before that my browser is set by default to Chrome. If I double click on my file, it's going to open on Chrome. Let's go and open my folder. This is my folder. And remember, I'm working on index right now, not index 1. Index 1 was the sample that I have from the using Notepad++, which I haven't coded yet. So I'm going to just double click on index. Now, if you do not have Chrome, or if you're going to use it on any other browser, you can always say right click and you can say open with, and whichever browser you want. I don't use Microsoft Edge ever, and I barely ever use Internet Explorer, so my default browser is Chrome, but you can check it on any of the browsers this way. I don't even have Mozilla Firefox here, as you can notice. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on index. And there you go. I have nothing here. But what do I have though? If you look up on top here, it says Janali Portfolio. See that? So what I'm going to do now is let's go back into my Sublime Text Editor. And I'm going to also pull up Notepad++ next to it. So what do we got? We got a browser tab here. So far, this title is showing up at the very top of my browser. And that's your title, page title. So I can change it. I can just call it, maybe I'll call it Janali B Portfolio. Then Control S, save it, go back to your browser, refresh. Notice how it said Janali B Portfolio now. So we know that this is how you open a file. So at least we got one step done. For a little bit, I'm going to work on Sublime. I'll come back to Notepad++ in a bit when this code is structured a little bit. Okay? So title's done. Let's work on something inside the head tag. There's something inside head tag that does not come by default. I want to mention something real quick. I'll actually copy this quickly. I'll copy this over. And I'll just keep that in there. I just copied it just in case I need it somewhere else. But right now, head tag has one thing missing. There is something called a meta tag. I want to add that. So keep in mind, inside of meta tag, there are multiple different kinds of meta tags that you can use. Now, in my case, I would be using a meta tag called, the very basic one, it's called UTF-8, and I'll do it just in a bit. Now, please be aware, I am using Sublime, and Sublime fills in a lot of things for me, like I mentioned at the very beginning, but Notepad++ may not do all of it. Then you'll just type in, just looking at mine, just type in how I have. I will use a lot of autofills. So anyways, I also want to mention something. Look up here on my Sublime editor, it says unregistered at the very top because I didn't sign in. And I did that deliberately so, because you'll see what happens when you use the free version of Sublime. So the free version of Sublime is nothing wrong with it. It's just perfectly okay. It does everything we need. Only big difference is it's gonna, every time you save, like about 2-3 times you start saving the file, it's gonna start popping this little pop-up saying, maybe you might want to consider purchasing. But that's okay. You can just completely ignore it and cross it out. And I'm hopeful that we'll get it in just a bit after I do a couple more saves. So let's see. So, all right, back to the head tag. Inside the head tag, we had the title that already came with my file. And later on in just a bit, I'll show you how I got it automatically without typing. But right now, let's check out the meta tag. So here's my meta tag. I'm going to start off with my brackets, and then I'll type in meta. As soon as I do that, I get this meta tag already. Autofill, I'm going to click on it, and that gives me the meta tag. Now, I mentioned there are multiple different meta tags. This particular meta tag that I'm using is called character set. Meta character set UTF-8. Now, let's try to understand what this is. This particular tag is equally as important as the doctype tag. The doctype tag tells the browser that this is a HTML file. The meta tag is telling the browser that, any character that I have typed in this document follows the UTF-8 platform. So let's see, what's UTF-8? Let's go to Mojibaki. So, have you guys seen before when you open up a website and you're in some other language website, maybe Ukrainian or Japanese or maybe some other language that's being translated to, you hit the translate button in your browser and it comes in like a whole bunch of gibberish. What would happen then? This is how it might look like. And the browser, what's happening here is the browser's failing to understand what language is this. It's just completely failing to understand. So I want to take you back from Mojibaki to here. So what this is this is a list of characters, complete character list for UTF-8. How do you get this? Just Google it, complete character list for UTF-8. And I am in this particular website where it says fileformat.info. You'll see it pops up at the very beginning of Google search. But these, I'm going to go down below a little bit so you can see. Look on the left side. These are all the UTF-8 character list. Anything outside of that, the browser might fail to understand. So it's important that you tell the browser what regulation you're actually following. In our case, the character said that we're going to follow UTF-8, which is very much a standard today. But now, what happens when you don't follow UTF-8? You're going to start getting something like this. This particular thing is called Mojibaki. I think it's called Modzibaki. I might not pronounce it well, but that's what it is. It's just a Japanese term, but it basically says unreadable characters shown when computer software fails to show text correctly. So go ahead and read more of this on Wiki, but it's extremely important if you are going to be in a web design business. You really need to know the know-hows inside. So I'm walking you through some of these little things that you need to know. You need to be familiar with what this is. So Modzibaki is one of them, and then the character set's another. So that basically tells us why we have to tell the browser what we're doing, what we're typing. Let's go back to Sublime here. So I told what doc type it is. I told the browser what character set it is. Done. I also told the browser what title my file is going to be. All right, so all good. So now what I'm going to do here is, let's say, I actually need to refresh my browser here real quick. Alrighty, so this is my JB portfolio right there that I already created. I'm about to put in more text in there. So let's talk about that. The body tag. So what's in the, I need to step back real quick and I want to quickly refresh. We talked very briefly about HTML. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. So keep that in mind. We do need to know these basic things. So all right, back to the body tag. I am going to add something to the body tag. I just want to add my name first. I called it my portfolio. So who am I? I just want to put my name in there first. Now let's talk about something that's called a nested tag. So notice how I can go back and forth here, but I tabbed it, and a good text editor, like in this case, in the Sublime, is already giving me the indentation. That's how you kind of structure it. Notice how the head tag's over here, but the meta tag and the title tag's inside. So you kind of nest as you go. When you do that, it becomes more readable. So just keep that in mind. I could have all of them in the same line, but why bother? Because it gets very difficult to read. Look, it's just difficult to identify where what is. Now, in case you're wondering how I'm doing things so quickly, undo is Control Z, save is Control S. And I do have a shortcut list inside the module. All right, so inside body, let's get back to business. I'm going to type in my name. Save it. Let's see what happens. I already have the file open. All I need to do is just refresh my browser. All right, I see my name up there, but it looks so bad, right? It doesn't even have any design. So let's go back. I'm gonna put something called the H1 tag here. So I'm gonna just cut my name out real quick to show you just the tag and how I generated it. I'm gonna say H. When I typed in H, it gave me all the H tags. I'm gonna click on H1. All right, and it gave me the opening and closing tag already. If you are on Notepad++ and you're not getting the automated fill, well, just type in yourself. It's not very hard or anything. It's H1, and copy paste the same thing and put a hash in front of it, so it's gonna close. It's gonna become a closing tag. And I'm gonna type in my name here, Chnali Bhattacharya. Save it, Control S, and refresh my browser. Now note how it was before when I did not have a H1 tag. Now I'm gonna refresh it, and look, I have a H1 tag, meaning it's a header. Let's go back and put more headers. H1 stands for header level number 1. Let's do header level number 2. Let's do H2. There are 6 levels of headers. If you can see, there's H1 to H6. I'm going to do H2 here. And this one, I'm going to type in who I am. So let's put in my title. So I'm going to say all right, save it, refresh. Do you see how it's different? Let's just quickly change my H1 to H6, H2 to H6, and I don't want it H6. I'll come back to that in just a bit and correct it, but I still wanted to show you what happens when you go all the way down to H6. I just made my H2 header H6. See, it's teeny meeny now. I'm gonna go back and actually change that back. I'm gonna Control Z it. All right, save it, refresh. Oh, there you go. Say the unregistered copy. Hello, thanks for trying out Sublime Text unregistered evaluation version. Would you like to purchase the license now? Just say cancel or cross it out. Like I said, this is the only bother if you are using Sublime for free. But you can still keep on going indefinitely and it's not going to bother you. So in my future demos, you'll see me with a registered version. So this pop-up may not come. I'm actually happy it showed up today so you could see it. All right, refreshing back again, it should be back to H2, H1 on the first line and H2 on the second sentence. All righty, cool. So now I need to tell who I am. So let's go back to that and talk about who I am. So to say who I am, I need to have a paragraph. So that's going to P tag. So let's say, again, all of these information that I'm adding now is inside the body. Remember, the head is only reserved to identify what character set it is. And again, there are more meta tags which we haven't played with yet. And also the head tag holds the important part, which is the title. And that's it for now. Right now, we're going to be adding more values inside the body. So in the body, what we're going to do is add a P tag now. P stands for paragraph. So I'll do P. As soon as I do P, it shows me all the P tags here. I'm going to just click on P and it gives me the opening and closing tag. And here's a good place for me to tell who I am and what I do. I definitely want to say here, a couple lines about me. So right on top of my head, I mean, this is not my perfect portfolio yet. So I just want to say here a couple of things for the sake of demo. Not going to make it too long, but it's going to be a shorter paragraph. So what I'm going to say here is, I based in the Bay Area. Um, I have been in the computer graphics industry for 15 years, working in education. Let's say games first, games and then education. That's it. So let's say this is my big bold sentence and I put it on P. Remember, P tag is not a header. So let's see what happens when I do that. And I want to mention something extremely important. You got to have these closing tags. Don't have these closing tags. You're lucky if it works okay. Most of the time it doesn't, depending on the browser. So I'll just do refresh and there you go. Now you see a very big difference here between the sizes, the boldness, the strongness of the text, a lot of different things. And in this case, we didn't even tell what kind of type of font it is or anything. We're still on HTML. That kind of styling, the colors, and then what kind of font it is, the size it is, all of those would be style sheets, CSS, when we get to it later. Right now, we're still working on HTML. So we are going to add some more paragraphs. So what I'm going to do here is take this same sentence and copy it for the sake of showing you more text instead of me thinking about what I'm going to write next, right? So I'm going to just copy a couple more text. Notice how everything's under one p tag, and I'll save it. And this sentence I copied it 3 times, so it should show up 3 times. There you go. But it's all one paragraph. Now what I'm going to do next is copy this whole paragraph tag, entire paragraph tag, and paste it again. Control C or Command C in Mac, and Control V or Command V in Mac. Notice here, there is no space between them. But when I refresh my browser, I saved it just now, Control S. When I refresh my browser, you'll see that it's going to have a space between them. Why? Because it's 2 different paragraphs. So HTML helps in a way that it would have 2 different paragraphs because I had 2 different p tags. So it kind of gives you automatically a little bit of line break. There is a space between them, right? All right, so let's go ahead and work on a couple other things here. So now I have this. I have 2 paragraphs, and if it helps you to kind of space these paragraphs apart, you can do so. I have a space here, but it's not going to show extra space or anything. The browser is still going to look the same. I'm going to hit Control S, go back to my browser, refresh it, and you'll notice nothing will change. There. Why? Because paragraph already adds a space. This particular space that I have here is not part of the code. This is more visually appealing for me. So for example, I can just put in more space here if you need to. For me, it doesn't matter, but if it bothers you, you're having difficulty identifying what ends where, you can feel free to space them apart. Alrighty. So let's talk about a couple of other things here. So I have the doc type tag, the title tag, and the meta tag under head. I have 2 different headers inside my body tag, and I have a p tag. Now, I want to add 2 more things before we finish up this beginning part of our demo. Now, we have all of this text here that really doesn't have much of an emphasis on anything. You can see my text, my paragraph text, just is same all along, right? So what I want to do here is maybe like bold a couple of sentences. I'll take this first part of it based in the Bay Area, and I'm gonna bold it. So to do that, I need a different tag. And you have to be inside the p tag in this case. Notice where my cursor is, it's inside the p tag. So I can type in B as in bold and do it like this. And I'm gonna close the B tag. All right, and save it. Let's see what happens. It bolded it. Now there's a big difference between just bolding and making the text strong. So let's talk about that. What is a B tag and what is a strong tag? Now B used to be the basic bolding tag back in the days. Now what B does is it only styles. There's a difference between styling and coding. The B tag here is only styling. It's only adding a style, bold style, to my text. What it doesn't do is it puts a strong emphasis. It doesn't make it strong. The text isn't strong in terms of coding. So it might look just like a style, but some browsers may fail to identify it because it's just a style. It's not a stronger emphasis on that particular font. So what HTML5 does, and it actually been around for some time, is there's a different code called strong. And strong is the code you want to use instead of bold for HTML5. So now that I already have a strong code that came in with my, when it autofilled it, I'm going to just cut this part. Now put this in between my strong text. And there you have it. Now I have a strong instead of bold. Now, what's the difference when you visually see it? Really not much. Let's go refresh it and you really won't see any difference. There, nothing changed. But we have the right tag for this. So again, don't use B, use strong, but be aware that there is something called a B. There used to be at least. Now let's make something italics. I'll use the same font right here inside based in the Bay Area part in the second paragraph that I copied, and I'm going to make this italicized. Now, technically, the italicized text would be I, right? And then I can also go back and do the same thing here. Close the I. And save it and see what happens. This bottom part right here should turn into italicized. There you go, it did. Problem with this is, again, just like the B versus the strong tag, same thing. I is no longer valid. What's valid is M, E-M. Emphasis tag. I'm not going to use the auto refill, otherwise I'll have to cut paste again. I'm going to just use emphasis. M stand for emphasis. Why? Again, same issue. I would only give you a styled text in italics. Emphasis, the word EM, emphasis would actually tell the browser that this particular set of text needs to be emphasized on. So the language is different behind these texts. We're going to just follow the standard protocol of today, which is strong for bold and emphasis for M tag for italics. So I'll refresh it and you won't see any difference. I and M does the same thing. It's just that you should be using M from now on because of the new protocol. So there you have it. I have italicized text and I have a bold text. Now, since we have been using Sublime, I am actually going to cut paste this whole thing inside Notepad++, and you'll see what happens. Control C, Control V. Now, in this file, I am going to call this one My Portfolio. So when we open it up, then you'll see the difference that it's a 2 different tag. Alrighty, so I just saved it, and I'm gonna go back into my tab here and open index. Okay, there you go. JB Portfolio was done in Sublime. My portfolio, I just copied pasted it in Notepad++. They are identical. As you can see no difference really. Alrighty, so why would we see any difference between these two? It's the typing part that makes the difference. Watch me here. I'm going to type in a H1 tag right underneath it. I'll put one more H1 tag. It gives me this, but it didn't give me the closing tag. So, I mean, you can select some. It just, at least in my case, I just find it a little less helpful in a way that it speeds up my workflow. Sometimes it doesn't. But what it does, though, notice how it gives me this, let me just delete this part real quick. And if I go in and type something here, I'll just type in my name again or whatever. Okay, I'll just do it this way. And then say, I'm going to close this H1 tag, right? The moment I have it purple, because I haven't closed it yet, notice how the last bracket isn't there yet. You have this purple highlight. What that tells you is that you still have one closing tag to add, the last bracket, but it shows you where the beginning part was. Notice how the beginning part, the opening tag of H1 gets highlighted. So it helps. The other thing is, if you notice, all of these, you can close and open. So why would you do that? Well, sometimes it's very important to do that because it really helps identify, because your file will get longer and longer and longer. Sometimes you're like, where did I put that? And just close the rest of it and only open the body, or maybe close everything else, only open the head, right? But again, Notepad++, only difference I would say, it works brilliantly. As long as you save it as HTML file at the very beginning, everything's great. Only important part here is the difference between this and Sublime. Of course, it's the color. I actually prefer working over the black and then having the color text versus Notepad++, which is very white and blue, which is still okay. My only concern when I work between these two is, what do I want? And I prefer a little bit of speed in my workflow, so which I get from Sublime. Again, I'm not advocating for either of them. It just comes down to personal preferences. Like I said, both would work just fine, or if you're on Mac, others would also work fine. I just happen to prefer this, so you will see me use Sublime more. But like I said, Have any one of them. It does not matter in terms of learning. All right, I want to show you something because I already showed you guys how to close and open these inside Notepad++. Also want to show you here on Sublime. If you hover over on the left side where it says the numbers, you can close and open them here too. All right, another fancy part about Sublime. Right, I am going to delete everything. Just like that. I'm going to delete everything. How do I begin? If I were to come into Sublime, and I don't think this happens with Notepad++, but you can feel free to correct me. I may not know everything about Notepad++. Here in Sublime, if you come in and type in HTML and hit Tab, ta-da, you have your boilerplate already for you. And then you can begin from there. You actually saw me starting with this at the very beginning. So all I did was HTML and then I do Tab and it gives me the basic boilerplate. I'm going to undo that, so I'll bring my document back. I'm going to show you a couple more things here before we move on. For now, I am done with Notepad++. I'm going to not work on Notepad++ for us for the rest of the demo or future demos. Again, like I said, feel free to use any. Does not matter if I am using Sublime or not. What matters is the code. If you're following me along, just copy the code in whatever text editor you have in the future. All right, so closing it down here. I'm going to be back on Sublime next. All right, we talked about Mojibaki. We talked about character set. We haven't talked about W3 schools yet. So let's talk about W3 schools. So this is a website called w3schools.com. This is your Bible for learning everything HTML, CSS. It's like the place to go to. These are the guys who monitors everything and updates new versions of HTML. They are the ones who's teaching all of us about everything web design. What you want to do here right now, at least, you want to go into the homepage and click on Learn HTML. All right, there you go. It took me 3 tries, God knows why. All right, so what I want you to take a look at is their tutorials, lots of them. Start learning HTML now. But on the left side, you'll see a ton of resources, right? So what I'm going to do here is find my tags. Let's see, there was a here, tag list. HTML references on the left. They keep on moving this around, so it took me some time to locate it. Under HTML references on the left, there is HTML tag list. If you click on that, these are the tags that are currently available for HTML5. Now, I have to say, I don't use all of them. Some people really don't use all of them. I'd say most designers don't. But if you are familiar with all of them, great. So you can go in and click on one of them. I'll just click on the HTML tag, the first HTML tag we've been using. Click on that. It's going to tell you everything about it. Here's a title document. You can actually copy paste this in yours if you don't want to type yours. And then it talks everything about what does it do, all of that stuff, it's just all here. Let's go and click on head tag. And that's there. It's just, you have definition and usage and browser support. I mean, you name it, they have it here. So that's W3C, W3 schools. Let's talk about another one that I haven't mentioned yet. I'm going to actually go back to my document real quick and start a new paragraph here. So let's start a new paragraph, P tag, and opening and closing tag. Now you notice in the previous time when I repeated a paragraph, all I was doing is like copying, pasting the same line over and over again. Sometimes what happens is that you really need text. And when you're making templates, you don't actually have the final text. So you want to do here in this case is you want to go get some dummy text. The industry standard for the dummy text is lorem ipsum. If you just type in lorem ipsum on Google, it's pretty, I know it sounds bizarre, the name's strange because it's Latin, but it is a very common website for anybody in graphic design, web design, motion graphics. All of us artists would use this website for dummy text. So lipsum.com is the website to go to. I'm actually going to copy something from here. All of this. These are all dummy text. Feel free to use them anywhere you want. There's more. Keep on going. You can have multiple different, you can see if I type in Portuguese, I should definitely get Portuguese. There you go. I'll go back to English now. But just saying, you can have text for free. And let's go back into my p tag here. I'm going to paste this. Now, I want to make sure that I click here and tab it so my indentation is perfect. Now, what is lorem ipsum? This part, I want to make it a H3 tag. So H3, let's put one here too. Oh, it did for me already. All right, save it. Let's go back into my, not this one, my portfolio. There you go. Notice how I have H1 here. This was H2. This is H3. This here is just a bold text. It's not a header. But notice what happened here. I want to take back to my Sublime text editor here. This whole part is one paragraph. But I have what is lorem ipsum as in a header. The moment I put in the header 3 in there, level 3 header, notice that there's a little space in there in between these two, which makes it very readable. So why would you use header? Multiple reasons. It makes it look readable for normal people, but it also makes it readable for those who need better accessibility in our pages. So you got to really think about what your viewers need. You want to make sure the page is accessible to everybody who accesses these pages. Visibility wise, this is a standard. If you have a header, please use a header tag. Don't just bold it. So there's a difference between bolding and header. Bolding just makes the font stronger, or it puts some emphasis on it. But a header makes it stand out more. So again, think about all of these subtle differences. But again, it just very basic things, but something to think in mind is accessibility. You always want to make sure people can read it. Also have to think about the browser would translate some of these writing, all of these writing, if the browser is capable of translating it in Brielle. And the translation has to also go perfectly. So using headers are a good thing. You'll actually see me using headers in my Canvas pages also. I could bolden it, it's just not the same as using header. So again, don't forget, these are good practices, also helps with accessibility. All right, so what did we learn today? We learned about the boilerplate of HTML document. What makes an HTML document is the doc type code, the HTML code, the HTML tag, the doc type tag, the head tag, the body tag. We also learned about the meta tag. We also learned about the title tag. Then we learned about multiple different headers. I used 3 of them. I used H1, H2, and H3 here. We also used the strong tag and the emphasis tag, which makes italics and bold. We also learned about the differences of p tag, the space between p tag, how it forms when you have different p tags within the same document. We also learned about nesting your HTML code. You know how I have tabs on them, right? You can also close and open your tags, and we talked about that too. You can do it with both both Notepad++ and the one that I'm using, which is Sublime. So other things that we learned today is we learned what Mojibaki is. We learned about UTF-8 character set, right? And we also learned about w3schools.com. This is a great learning resource. Please be sure to check it out. Definitely don't forget. And lorem ipsum for all the dummy text we ever need. So that said, there is something called a HTML validator. This is also W3C's. It's validator.w3.org. If you come up here and you say check, oh, you have to type, no, okay, wait, I have to go back. There are a couple ways to do this. You can do validate by URI, or you can say validate by file upload, or validate by direct upload. I'm actually going to do validate by direct upload. And if I go in here and I'll say Control A for copy all, Control A for copy all, or you can just, so select all is Control A, sorry. You can highlight select too. I just do Control A to select all, then Control C to copy all. And it's going to be Command A and Command C for Mac. And then paste it here. Right, and then do check. All right, what does it say? I have a warning. Okay. Okay. I have an extra p tag somewhere here. This is an error. This one's fine. This is just a warning. I think it's because I haven't put that language tag yet, which you'll see me using in the next document. Uh, but so language is an attribute that can be added into the HTML tag, which I haven't added yet at this point. That's why it's giving me a warning. I can totally ignore this. But there's no p element in scope, but p end tag seen. So let's go find out where it is. Where is my p element problem? Number 2, this is happening on line, oh, it's here. Okay, I need to go find out where this is happening. I'm actually not sure why I'm getting this. No p element in scope, but a p end tag seen. And from line 13, column, okay, forget the column. All right, let's go check out line 13. What's happening on my subline, line 13. Okay. All right, I need this p tag out of here and down here. All right, let's see. Control A, Control C. Paste this here again. Control A, Control V. Check. All right, my error is gone. And my warning's still there. Again, like I said, I haven't added the language attribute to HTML yet. So again, you'll see me in future documents using that. But see, now I have a perfect document. So why would you use this to do exactly this? Because when I was doing this, I put the H tag inside my P tag, and the validator was like, nope, can't do that. Put the P tag outside of H. So I did. So now you can see here, I have my H tag and the P tag. So P tag is closing and opening the paragraph, and the H tag is by itself. So when I did that, you notice that my validator was like, okay, you're good to go. Alrighty. That's it for this demo. In the next demonstration, we are going to learn a little bit more about HTML. We're going to add more to it, to this document. We're going to learn a little bit about list and other fun stuff that we can add to this document. Alrighty, I'll see you in the next document.